Nothing says Disney Park more than our castles. These soaring landmarks appear at every one of our themed resorts and are instantly recognizable by millions around the world.
Disney castles are more than just the icons of our parks. They're a symbol of our beloved company. And while our castles have had a few different looks over the years, I mean, who hasn't? They've always been synonymous with Disney magic, a backdrop for family memories and fairy tale wishes come true.
Building castles is so iconically Disney. Each one presents a unique opportunity for Imagineers, but it's an opportunity we love. Castles have a special place in my heart, and I'm thrilled to be a part of the team that continues to build on the work done over the last 70 years.
Maybe, like me, you've wondered how this treasured icon came to be in the first place. Or maybe you've wanted a behind-the-scenes look at how we continue to reimagine them at our parks around the world. If so, you won't want to miss this episode of We Call It Imagineering.
Here we are at the Sleeping Beauty Castle at Disneyland, where it all began. Tom, why a castle?
Castles have been talked about in stories for centuries to all cultures. Everyone really recognizes it as symbolizing dreams and aspirations. This is really a fairy tale castle that's an amalgam of different time periods. It's medieval. There are some references to French Renaissance and, of course, Neuschwanstein, which is kind of Romanesque. The reason it became so important is attention to detail and the authenticity. You can touch it. I remember going back to when I was 2 years old, touching the stone just was so real. The immersiveness of it, the stained glass, the drawbridge, and the ironwork and everything. It creates this sense of wonder and dreams and inspirations and aspirations. In the earliest days of Disneyland planning, when it was intended to go across the street from the studio in Burbank, it wasn't part of the planning. The park was just going to be Americana. When the television program started forming in Walt's mind, he expanded the idea out to include Adventureland and Tomorrowland, and a land that represented all of his animated films. They needed a castle to represent that part of the park.
Why was Sleeping Beauty chosen for Disneyland, not the original Disney princess, Snow White?
They actually did consider Snow White initially, and Walt found that it would be a great way to promote the film Sleeping Beauty that was actually under production at that time, even though it was 4 years away from Disneyland's opening.
As the first castle Imagineering built, where did Walt find the architects to design this?
This castle is really a tribute to the set designers. They came from other film studios and the Disney studio, but they had done Robin Hood and all the various films, and Disneyland benefited from these fantastic set designers. They didn't start the construction drawings for this castle until January 1955. That gave them 7 months to finish it. One day they were actually having the final buy-off around the model of the castle, and Walt was to be there, and all the heads of WED at the time were all at this meeting, and Herb Ryman turned the roof around. So Herb said, "Doesn't this look a lot better?" And one of the designers was like, "Herb, put it back, because Walt's coming in any minute." And of course, Walt walked in right at that moment, and Walt said, "I think that looks a lot better." So what is the reverse of this castle was actually in the front initially, and history was made at that moment.
This castle is the beginning, and it influenced all the castles we built around the world.
The castles became so iconic. They were the lead-in for the television programs. They are still the lead-in when you go see a Walt Disney film. They naturally became the icon, the singular face of each of the parks. That's why they're called castle parks. The second one for Walt Disney World was at first concepted by Herb Ryman, who always wanted this castle to be a little bit bigger. The one in Florida is very grand and tall, the way that Herb portrayed it in that famous Walt Disney World aerial rendering with a slightly different time period. It's more French Renaissance than it is medieval.
We're here in front of the Cinderella Castle in Walt Disney World. Colleen, you work with color and paint design. When you think about how you're going to refresh an icon like the Cinderella Castle, where do you start?
When you step into our park, you see the castle, and we want that to be just a great moment. We're always so excited to work on a new scheme for the castle. We've updated the color every time we've repainted it. We look at all the old photos, the films, light hitting the castle. We pull all that together, trying to evoke an emotion.
when this was first open, it was much more subdued in tone.
Yes, the castle started out quite a cool gray. As the years went by, we started putting warmer tones on the castle to get that last ray of sunlight. We're trying to enhance the forced perspective, so the castle is actually getting smaller as it goes up. The shingles even are forced perspective, so the shingles get smaller as we go up. We enhance that illusion with lighter colors as the castle gets higher. And all of that is to create the illusion of this beautiful, elegant, tall castle, because we can only go so tall with our icon. In the color choice, we want to make sure that every guest has the opportunity to get a really beautiful picture on it. Even if there's a cloudy sky, the castle still looks magical. And also, we light the castle at night, so our color scheme has to be projection friendly and lighting friendly.
That's right. The Cinderella castle will be receiving an update coming up, right?
Right now, we have the color scheme from the 50th, so the rose gold and all the gold. It was a really big birthday celebration for us. As we look at our next version of the castle, we're trying to go back to evoke the classic castle. So the castle on opening day of Walt Disney World, and we're going to put together our most classic castle ever.
And the other unique feature that many may not know about is the castle suite inside the Cinderella castle. It's a Cinderella-inspired room, beautifully designed by Imagineers with wonderful influences from the classic film. The castle suite is incredibly special. It's the only one of its kind in the entire world.
Very elegant. We're always trying to support that story.
The first time you came to the park when you saw the castle, how did you feel?
I was so excited. I'd seen it on Wonderful World of Disney. I had those coffee table books. It really was like a dream. I wish I had paid more attention to what the colors were the first time.
That's right.
As an artist, I always wanted to work on a team and on large scale. I became aware that there was this really talented group of color designers, sculptors, and artists that work for Imagineering. Getting to paint a mountain or a castle is just such a great opportunity for me.
Sophia, James, this castle was the first to feature a stage.
We have castle stages in front of many of our castles around the world. Tell these beautiful stories. We get to put on these wonderful shows that feature all of our beloved characters. Our guests can really connect through that. It makes it very accessible. It also provides a canvas for our nighttime spectaculars.
We have 500,000 lumens of projector light hitting the castle, which is the equivalent to 750 60-watt light bulbs. And then we have 299 to 558 feet of throw at the Magic Kingdom, over 12 miles of fiber optic cable running back to the centralized control room to get communication with the media servers and get that really even coverage that brings all of our beloved characters to life.
This is something that you can only experience in the park, which is a whole other level of the emotion.
Absolutely.
Which is what we do here.
When we are building projection mapping, part of our job is creating an emotional connection with the guests to rekindle those emotions with those characters.
We place these characters in a way that we're showcasing them in surfaces that would be pretty flat on the castle itself. Like Peter Pan here, the majority of him is in an area where you can read it when it's projected on the spire. There are going to be bends and corners that we can't avoid. It is a castle after all, so we design it in a way that doesn't interrupt the overall look of the characters and of the castle scenery.
In 2020, the castle got a fresh coat of paint. The bottom is a dark gray and the top is a rose gold. We also have reflective gold trims. That change changed the way that we needed to approach designing the content for projection mapping.
We have to change colors during color projection to make sure that that's reading as intended. You cannot make a dark blue roof bright yellow without doing some color magic. We try to add happiness into our pieces, and we use colors, animation, we use fireworks, we use music and lighting, everything that we can visually to help tell that story. It's just something that's going to bring happiness to our guests.
Growing up a Star Wars fan, I absolutely loved those movies. You feel so many different emotions. Seeing Star Wars as a kid inspired me to learn how to tell those stories myself. Being at Disney, I get to live out my dream of getting to tell stories with my team every single day.
I've been watching Disney as young as I can remember. Growing up in the Philippines, I never thought that I would ever touch a Disney project or let alone be an artist. It seems so out of reach. My wife and my friends said, you should just pursue it. Eventually, I had a chance to submit my portfolio. I was offered a role as a cast member. It was surreal. I felt like I just hit the lottery. What I would say to aspiring Imagineers is the same thing that I would tell my daughter. Don't be afraid to pursue your dreams. Don't ever give up. Keep practicing. Just believe in yourself. If you do, you can make it.
Ten years before we built the castle in
Right.
Hong Kong, Imagineers brought a castle to Paris. What was unique about that?
France is the land of castles. We didn't want to repeat anything or look like we were trying to replicate any beloved castle that was in the area. It should be unique, fairy tale, and storybook-like. So I was sent out there to look at all the castles to know what not to repeat and also what to kind of weave in subtly. All of that had to be kept in mind of the texture and old world quality of the original Disneyland castle. It's fairy tale and it's Disney, but it does have a French accent.
And unique to Paris. Bonjour, Michel.
Bonjour, Ali.
Here we are in beautiful Disneyland Paris, standing in front of the Sleeping Beauty castle.
Sleeping Beauty is a French story. It has its origins here. When the Walt Disney Company decided to build a fourth resort here in France, it just made sense to base the castle off of that story. Sleeping Beauty, of course, is also, dare I say, probably one of the most iconic animated movies ever created. The Imagineers found a lot of inspiration from that film to create all kinds of beautiful details. Ivan Ill was the wonderful artist that was responsible for the backgrounds in the Sleeping Beauty film. They took inspiration from his art and from the backgrounds of the film and recreated these trees here on the hill. Imagineers actually realized they had to differentiate this castle with all the castles that are surrounding us, not only here in France, but in the rest of Europe. One of the reasons the castle's also pink with beautiful blue turret spires is to just give it that little bit more fantastical flavor, but it really creates a Disney aesthetic and it immediately created an icon everybody could recognize.
What are some of the specific locations that inspired this castle?
Mont Saint-Michel, the famous island on the coast of France, where you have this like city with a monastery on top of it, on this hill, is reflected in this beautiful hillside that's connected to the castle. The Imagineers opted for making it more natural, and therefore, the castle itself stays very slender as a statement. In reality, we're looking at an extension of the building, but it's just a really smart way of designing so that the focus never went away from the slenderness of the castle itself. These oval windows are not only just really pretty to look at, they also give a unique, very recognizable statement on the facade of this castle. You only have to show our guests here a picture of this castle once, and they will remember and identify this design specifically with Paris. When you go inside the castle, you'll have these Gothic columns that are quite traditional, but then they transition and transform into these treetops with fiber optic effects in it. Just really magical. The Imagineers translated references to French architecture and made it a real fairy tale, something that does not exist in reality. On the west side of the castle, we have the Disney family crest. Imagineers put, of course, a little homage to
The reason we're standing
The
here.
reason we're standing here. I think the Imagineers did a really good job making this park feels like it belongs on the European continent.
Was there anything special about the way we maintained the castle over the years?
Absolutely. The same artisans that worked on the Notre Dame and bringing that back to life are also people that work on our castle and restoring the finials or restoring the beautiful stained glass inside. We treat it as a monument the French people have embraced, and we benefit from the great talent that is in this country.
We're inside La Galerie de la Belle à Bois de Mont, which tells the story of Sleeping Beauty through hand-painted storybooks, authentic hand-woven tapestries, and these beautiful stained glass windows. All this stained glass was handcrafted by an artisan in England named Paul Chapman. When he was given the chance to make these stained glass windows, he came out of retirement for us. I just think they're absolutely gorgeous.
How do you maintain this? If something has to be touched up or a piece of stained glass breaks, what do you do?
We have so many wonderful artisans here in Europe. So if stained glass needs to be repaired, we can go to a stained glass builder. If we need tapestries repaired, we can have a tapestry hand woven. We're very lucky being the heart of Europe to tap into that network of artisans.
What are guests going to find here that may be a surprise to them?
The best part is we have a dragon. We have a large dragon that is in La Tanière du Dragon, which is a dungeon under the castle. It's 79 feet long, 10 feet tall. When it opened, it was actually the largest audio animatronic in the world. Most of the time, the dragon is sleeping. They'll hear him snoring. You'll see him move around a little bit, but guests that are really brave, that can get up really close, the dragon might wake up. It's a really cool way that I think surprises and delights our guests. The dragon is a great way to pay homage to all the stories of heroes and especially villains that are so deeply ingrained into European stories.
How did you end up here in Paris Disneyland?
My career started at Disneyland in 2003. I was a ride operator on Haunted Mansion. My dad was actually a theme park designer. It's kind of fitting that I ended up here in France working on the most beautiful park in the world.
You and I worked on the original Hong Kong Disneyland
That's
castle,
right.
which has been reimagined. When you were approaching the design of that castle, what was some of your inspiration?
We wanted a tribute to this castle, something that would be authentically Walt Disney. Almost stone by stone, we reproduced the castle. On the back side, there were some additions made to this castle in the 50s that weren't reflected in the Hong Kong castle. And of course, the interiors are completely different. But they used the original 1955 drawings for Hong Kong Disneyland.
I remember those drawings.
I wish I had kept all of them.
Kelly, Louise, this castle wasn't always the castle of magical dreams.
We opened with the exact replica of the Sleeping Beauty castle from Walt's original design.
So yeah, we had a castle there, and then we said, we need something different. How did we approach building a castle on top of a castle?
The biggest challenge is to expand the castle in an operating part and double its height.
Yeah.
We prefabricate in the factory while we build the building foundation simultaneously on site.
Each night, we would erect a different tower, so our guests actually became part of the construction, seeing it being built right in front of their eyes.
That's fantastic. So we not only transformed the castle, we transformed the way we build castles.
Yes.
Our location is very special. It's the only park that has this natural backdrop. We have this beautiful green mountain, and so we wanted a very vibrant castle to stand out against that background. As you enter the park, the scale of those mountains help determine the height and the shape of our castle. This castle is very eclectic and reflects a lot of different stories, and we have a real international guest mix here. Our hope is that our guests see some of their favorite stories in this castle and see a little bit of themselves. I grew up going to Disney parks. I was always in awe of what was created. It took me to these wonderful, magical places. The thought of being able to be part of that elite group of Imagineers was something that really drove me. Being able to be side by side creating wonderful new stories and bringing them to life and seeing our guests enjoy them, that's exciting. That keeps me going.
What inspired me is Disney's love of technology and innovation. Every project we do, we push the limit to achieve the world-class experience that we can offer to the guests.
Mark, we're here to talk about the Tokyo Disneyland Castle. Behind us is this beautiful rendering, an overall portrait of Tokyo Disneyland. We often assume the Cinderella Castle at Walt Disney World and the Cinderella Castle in Tokyo are the same, but there's some pretty significant differences.
One of the main differences is they are not the same height. Walt Disney World's is about 189 feet. The Tokyo Castle is 167 feet.
there's also differences between what guests can experience at the castle in Tokyo.
Actually, inside the castle is a walkthrough called Cinderella's Fairy Tale Hall, where Cinderella and Prince Charming have opened up the castle, welcoming guests to walk through and see the backstory, but they also have great photo ops along the way.
That's really special. Our guests around the world really appreciate the differences between each castle and the different opportunities and things to do at each castle. What's the most personal piece of the Cinderella castle in Tokyo to you?
There are so many aspects to really appreciate about the castle, from the architecture to the artwork. For me, the way the castle presents itself to the guests, the metal framework of the canopy, it creates this perfect reveal as guests walk into the hub. The castle comes into full view. It's something you can find only at Tokyo Disneyland.
You and I have worked together over the years, but I don't know the origin story.
While at university, I was an intern at Walt Disney World. I was not quite sure what to expect, but once you get into the building, it became obvious that this place was so special. This is an opportunity where people get to come and create state-of-the-art attractions, amazing shows, and they get to do that for a living. How lucky are we? So at that point, I was kind of hooked.
I'm here at Shanghai Disneyland, home to the beautiful Enchanted Storybook Castle, our largest castle and most complex. It houses restaurant and retail spaces and 2 attractions truly unique to Disney and Shanghai Disneyland. And though every Disney castle is special, I feel close to this one as part of the team that built this icon. Our common goal was to infuse this castle with more stories than we had ever done before. Leia, you and I worked on this together many years ago. What's distinctly Chinese about the castle?
When we were working on the castle, we used creative principle of authentically Disney, distinctly Chinese. Look at the beautiful terrace that's reaching up to the sky. It is reaching up to wishes and dreams and hopes. If you look at the tallest finial, it has a single peony flower that sits on top. It is the national flower of China. Underneath it, there are shooting stars that represents the wishing stars of Disney.
There's a lot of detail on this castle.
The castle tells the story of all Disney princesses, but also a hidden story of the seasonal flowers that represents the 4 seasons in China.
Each of these murals represents a princess and a different season. The seasons are part of what's distinctly Chinese about the design of this castle. Rapunzel is spring, Tiana is summer, Merida is fall, and of course, Elsa and Anna are winter. And the ceiling of this rotunda is a constellation of stars that tells the story of all of our Disney princesses. The crystal on the chandelier is part of the crystal that lives in the Crystal Grotto below the castle, which is where the boat ride takes us through. The voyage to the Crystal Grotto runs through Enchanted Storybook Castle. Nuri, what came first, the attraction or the castle?
Well, definitely the castle. When I started before the park opening, we were still building the interior of the castle. A lot of the attraction that you see here in front of us was still under construction. So we had to finish all the rock work before we could even fill water into the voyage to the Crystal Grotto.
Tell me a little bit about the story. What will guests experience?
This attraction really celebrates the travels of a young fisherman who discovered the magical Crystal Grotto. So guests travel the waters of Fantasyland, lined up with beautiful fountains and sculptures.
The figures look great, Nuri.
Here we have beautiful topiaries.
Have you had to replace any of the flowers?
Yes. Redo the topiaries every 2 years. And on the way, they follow a dragonfly hidden inside the landscape.
There's one.
This dragonfly will take them to the entrance of the cave and disappear at the opening. Inside the grotto are crystallized scenes from favorite stories.
And that's the crystal that gives power to the castle.
Yeah, the magical crystal.
It's truly unique to have an attraction that actually goes through the whole castle. We don't do that anywhere else in the world. Leia, there's a beautiful carved jade piece here.
We decided to use jade as a background for Princess's meet and greet. Jade is very unique to Chinese people. It has a lot of good meanings like purity, fortune, long-last health. It is one piece of jade. We went to 4 different cities in China and eventually find this one that's perfect in size and colors.
This is one of my favorite secrets about the Storybook Castle. I just love this piece.
My journey with Imagineering started with my childhood dream. Ever since I watched The Lion King, I wanted to be a Disney artist. And then I went to school in the United States and I attended the design competition of Imaginations competition by WDI. And that's how I got into Imagineering.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's great. Is there anything that's special to Walt on this castle?
There are actually 4 very special swans that we designed for the castle. On each archway there are 2 swans, and all of them are named after the most important women in Walt Disney's life. Flora, his mother, Lillian, his wife, and Diane and Sharon, his daughters.
That's amazing. Zach, here we are, Walt Disney Imagineering, surrounded by beautiful artwork representing our castles. You lead strategy and planning globally for all of our projects around the world.
I love this role. It allows me and my team to be at the very beginning. We get a chance to see so many ideas and so many opportunities before they become real. I love that process because it's looking at all the potential options before we really land on the best option for the future of our parks.
Let's talk about that in the context of building our future experiences. Something like a new region such as Abu Dhabi, which we recently announced as our latest destination.
This has been an incredibly exciting project to get a chance to not only visit Abu Dhabi and experience what the city is like, what the culture is like, but also to imagine what a new Disney experience is going to be here. One of the first decisions we made as a company was to think we're going to create a castle park here, a park that's based on our Magic Kingdom style of storytelling. We've shared artwork very early in terms of what we think the vision of this could be. I think on that end, stay tuned. Abu Dhabi is a city on the water, and so we're really excited about being able to incorporate water for the first time in the design of one of our castles.
And also for the first time, we're taking our iconic castle to the sea, literally with our newest ship, the Disney Adventure. And that castle is not a replication of any existing castle in the world. It's inspired by broader nature themes like water, also subtle nods to our princesses, Moana, Rapunzel, Elsa, and Anna. It definitely resonates in a similar way.
It's that connection that people feel every time they see a Disney castle.
We each bring a different point of view to these projects. I like to build parks. That's what really makes me happy.
Seen that.
What in the future planning really inspires you?
The things that we make have lasting impact on so many people, and that legacy is tremendously rich, but it means that every choice we make has so much weight on it. But we also want to not lose the sense of fun and creativity. But there's a lot of choices that come in to make these things come to life, and it's that process that I really enjoy.
I'm so glad you enjoy it because then I get to go build it.
This is true. This is where our worlds come together.
That's right. Walt was a visionary and continues to inspire Imagineers to this day, actually carrying us into the future, how we think about castles, castle design, and storytelling.
Walt was always changing. He didn't like to repeat himself. That's why all of our castles are a little bit different. We don't just repeat this one over and over again. That speaks to his qualities of always pursuing the next great thing. I think he'd be blown away to know that there are these wonderful icons around the world. Looking to the future, I think Imagineers, they're inspired by these castles. They're beautiful, they're iconic. We're going to see more and more castles that are even more fantastic and a little bit different than the castles that we grew up with.
We keep moving forward. We're always exploring and experimenting. We call it Imagineering. Imagineering.